It all started back in 1981 when I read the Duncton Saga, which is the Dutch translation of William Horwood's debut novel, Duncton Wood. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutchgreybeard. I was 17 years old at the time and had been exploring literature for grown-ups hesitantly, mainly because I had to for school. As a kid, I'd been reading and rereading the 30-ish children's books I owned. Among those were the 15 books in the series The Five Find-Outers by Enid Blyton in a Dutch translation. At 17, I secretly dreamt of becoming a great writer, a dream that is still alive today. Duncton Wood is the book that decisively turned me into a reader for life. I vividly remember reading this book when I was still living with my parents. Until late into the night, I would lie on the couch reading, unable to put the book away. Horwood led me into a world of moles who, equipped with human qualities, worry about things like religion, freedom, love, violence, silence, literature, pretense, friendship, and so on. This was the first time that a book completely transported me into a different world. It was the first time I deeply identified with some of the characters in a book, even though they were the humblest of creatures you can imagine, moles. It was the first time that just words on a page moved me to tears. Or, as a blurb on one of his other books says, some of the passages would wring tears from a stone, but they are tears from recognition, not pity. In short, an entire world of beauty and possibility opened up to me. The infinite world of books. After the Dutch version, it took me a few years to feel confident enough to read the English version of the book. After his debut, William Horwood published two literary novels, The Stone or Eagles in 1982 and Skelligrig from 1987. And in between, in 1984, he published a novella called Callanish. Skelligrig is, to date, nothing less than the best book I have ever read. And although I'm reading a lot of very good books in the fantasy genre at the moment, I do not see that Skelligrig will be deposed from this throne anytime soon. Horwood returned to Moldham in 1988. He wrote 5 consecutive Duncton books: Duncton Quest, 1988, Duncton Found, 1990, which finishes the Duncton Chronicles trilogy. Then in 1991, Duncton Tales, Duncton Rising in 1992, and the closing of the series with Duncton Stone in 1993. I read physical books, no ebooks and certainly no audio. When I'm reading, I want to be able to easily pencil something in the margins or underline phrases so that I can find them when I'm leafing through a book at a later time. Even though I'm a trustful user of modern technology, I do not trust ebooks. I cannot underline or write in them the way I want to. Now, audio is something I never even considered trying. Here, obviously, the making of notes and underlying is non-existent. Moreover, listening to someone narrating a book is not the same as reading. Or is it? But then I started following booktubers at the beginning of 2023. I heard several of them raving about this audio narration or that, so I took a leap of faith and subscribed to audible.com. I reasoned that the leap would land me in a soft spot if I chose a book I already knew. The book that instantly came to mind is the one that turned me into a reader so long ago, Duncton Wood by William Horwood. I listened to this book during my walks and when I do household chores like the dishes. These are the only occasions when I listen to a book. So these lengthy books take me quite some time to finish. Duncton Wood clocks at almost 24 hours. Duncton Quest, which I've also finished listening to, takes up almost 30 hours, and Duncton Found, which I'm listening to at the moment, is even longer, with 31 hours. I had Duncton Wood on audio for about 2 months, and Duncton Quest took me even longer, 3 months. Duncton Wood today holds the number 8 spot on my list of favourite books of all time. It is a fable in the tradition of the popular Watership Down by Richard Adams. Animals have their own language, their own civilization, and their own struggle for survival. The moles in the world Horwood has created live in loose societies around standing stones, such as the stone in the Duncton forest. They create art in the form of underground acoustics, and they write their tales, legends, and other important books on pieces of birch bark. The ferocious mole mandrake, who grew up in the distant system of Chabot in the east, reaches the Duncton system. Here he violently imposes his will on the moles. In Mandrake's shadow operates the cunning Rune, who is even more vicious and dangerous. In their quest for freedom, the young mole Bracken and Mandrake's daughter Rebecca play a major role. The moles worship the stone, to which they direct all their prayers and in which they trust. This form of belief comes closest to Buddhism and breathes much of Tao. As a symbol of their worship, the moles use the most lifeless and immobile of all symbols you can possibly think of, the stone. Ultimately, the story is about faith itself, the kind of faith that can only flourish if there is faith in oneself. Horwood's novel unravels a threefold quest: the journey across the land, the journey in the mind, and the journey toward the end of life. The end of this novel, which I won't go into here, is overwhelmingly sad, beautiful, profound, but above all, hopeful. Horwood's writing style is very picturesque, and he doesn't hold back on describing nature. He creates atmospheric images that instantly transport the reader to the woods his characters inhabit. He also doesn't shy away from strong emotions. There are a few scenes in which a mole dies, which each time again brought tears to my eyes. After Bracken has guided a mole to his silence with kind and beautiful words, it says, "He felt a terrible desolation. It was as if the deceased mole had gone to the world of the living, leaving him in a place of the dead." The characters are multidimensional, and even though the good and the bad are easily recognizable, both good and bad have opposite streaks as well in them. What I particularly love about this story and the other books in this series is the strong sense of purpose the moles have. Not exactly knowing why they want to go somewhere, but understanding that they simply have to. And there is wisdom in abundance. For instance, when the healer Rose instructs Rebecca in her arts, she shushes her apprentice who wants to understand every detail of Rose's teachings. "Now, Rebecca, my love, you take understand right out of your vocabulary as quickly as you can, and then you'll understand all the faster." Another beautiful wisdom: truth lies not in scribed words, but only in the heart that scribed them, and the heart that reads them, just as the light lies inside the stone and not outside it. I found it very inspirational to read about the moles that decide to stay in the silent burrows at the system of Uffington. They stay in these burrows in complete silence, often for years, and some even die there. When Bracken asks why these moles do that, he's answered, because they've reached a point where the only way forward is sitting still. This is my first audio experience with a book, so I cannot compare the narrator, Gareth Armstrong, with others. All I know is that I absolutely love his voice and his narration. He brings characters to life in a way that doesn't happen when I read the words from the page in silence for myself. His versatile voice and many accents make characters instantly recognizable, even before their names are mentioned. Every time Mayweed, my favorite character who makes his appearance in the second book, Duncton Quest, speaks, a big smile appears on my face. I highly recommend this book for all readers, and this audio version is a very accessible form. I rated this third reading of Duncton Wood on audio 98 out of 100. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutchgreybeard.